Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussions of the future of clinical engineering education. We are thrilled to have you join us today as we explore the evolving landscape of education in our field and discuss the essential skills and competencies that future clinical engineers will need. We have an incredible lineup of panelists who bring experience and diverse perspectives. Each will share their insights on the impact of technology, interdisciplinary collaboration, and global trends in clinical engineering education. I encourage you to engage actively during our Q&A session at the end of the discussion. Your questions and thoughts are vital to this conversation. Thank you for being here, and let's dive into what promised to be an enlightening session. As the healthcare landscape continues to evolve rapidly, the field of clinical engineering is at a pivotal crossroad where education must adapt to meet new challenges and opportunities. This panel, titled The Future of Clinical Engineering Education, aims to explore the innovative approaches and strategies that will shape the education of clinical engineers in coming years. With advancements in education, the increasing complexity of healthcare systems, and the need of interdisciplinary collaboration, it is crucial to re-examine how we train and prepare future professionals in this vital field. Today, we have as panelists Ramiro Barreiro from Argentina. Welcome, Ramiro. James Ware for USA, Marie-Ange Janvier for Canada, and Francine Umutesi for Rwanda. We are going to start with Ramiro Barreiro. He's a bioengineer graduated from the Faculty of Engineering of the National University of Entre Rios, assistant professor of mechanics and mechanics at UNER, currently professor of the professional practice subject 2 of the higher technical career of maintenance of health institutions with orientation in biomedicine of the Training, Research and Technological Development Unit of the Province of Salta, and head of the biomedicine program of the Ministry of Public Health of Salta. He is also professor of the clinical engineering specialization of the Arturo Jauretche National University and guest professor of the clinical engineering specialization of the UNER. So, Ramiro, let me share my screen so we can see your presentation, and welcome.
Hello, everybody. I hope you as well as I am. Okay, I will talk about the challenge.
Screen, Ramiro?
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing screen. Today, I will talk about challenges for the future of clinical engineering. Next, please. I want to talk about the insights on the skills needed for future clinical engineering. We were talking about these topics with some college in Argentina, and we believe that these topics are needed to be teach to our students. So we need to create topics in artificial intelligence related with medical devices and related with clinical engineering management, topics with medical informatics related with big data, machine learning, IoT related to medical devices, and we have to take focus on medical devices used outside the hospital settings, like wearables that sense vital signs, medical devices used at home, and neurorehabilitation devices, because we think that these topics are not such developed in our careers by now. Next, please. This is um, a note that made by the doctor Ignacio Hernandez Medrano. He's a neurologist, and he says that not being into the things like algorithm or IA, it's being outside of medicine. And this this is this is said by a doctor. So if a doctor say that, we as engineer and we as technician in medical devices, we have to take this as a good I don't know how to say, but it's a good, well, I don't know how to say in English, sorry. But we have to understand that if the doctors wanted the IA as a need, a big need, we have to do the things, and we have to take this as a good, I don't know how to say, I'm sorry. Well, next please.
Okay.
This photo, it's about the medical devices with the AI technology approved in the last 4 years. We have many different specialties, medical specialties with EA equipment. In 2020, there were approved 9 devices. In 2021, was 13, in 22, 25, and in 23, 12. And the specialty were different. They were by therapeutic radiology, hematology, endocrinology, internal medicine, orthopedics, neurology, ophthalmology, cardiology, and radiology. And radiology is the most different kind of equipment or medical devices that have been approved. So we have to orientate our knowledge to this kind of technology because it's what it's coming to by now. Next, please. This is an example for an EA CT scan that improves the diagnosis, that improves was reducing the radiation doses and more than 82%. So we think in Argentina that this technology is the best way to show how the IA improves the treatment, improves the results from the medical treatments, and improves obviously the health of people. Next, please. When we talk about the continued education, we have to say that today are more than 2 million of different types of medical equipment or medical devices on the global market. categorized into more than 7,000 generic devices currently. Medical device technology have been varied conceptually from about the past 20 years and continue to change. And these changes are getting faster and faster as time goes by. So we have to be making this adjustment to the curricula to be in the at the same time.
Sorry, Ramiro, we are not hearing you. Can you open your mic, please?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I was saying that medical devices technologies have varied conceptually in the past 20 years and continue to change. And these changes are getting faster and faster as time goes by. And so we have to to uh, to do our best with the when we develop our curricula to adapt these changes uh, to these curricula because we need to be in synchrony with that changes. That implies that the training process in the new technologies must be continuous and updated, not only by clinical engineers, but also the teachers. Because if we train, we are training only at the post-graduation and not in the graduation, it's for us to fall. So but what happened with the people that was out of this training in the graduation, we need to create the spaces that we can teach us or training of the postgraduate people. So it's very important to us to develop a continuing education system. And well, that's the point by now. Next, please. So, how academic institutions can adapt their curricula to meet industry demand? That's a challenge. The challenge is to ensure that the curricula can reflect the contents that are being worked on the industry right now. But in many countries, like our country in Argentina, and some countries in Latin America, the curricular adaptation processes take more than 5 years, and when you manage to have the new curricula, it's already obsolete. This makes us to take another strategy to work with the ministries of education to reduce that gap, because this gap is too high, too very difficult to reduce in this condition by now. So in parallel, we need to improve in academical research related to the topics discussed above, because in a few years from here, the research became into the industry, but not the university. So we have to take again this academical research to have a new vision of the new demands.
Thank you so much, Ramiro. Here is his contact information. And uh, let's pass to the next panelist, James Ware. Here, his bachelor, master, and PhD degree from the University of Arkansas. He established the biomedical engineering and hospital safety programs and provide training for engineering and safety personnel across the Department of Veterans Affairs in several hospitals. From 1972 to 2000, he was a professor of biomedical instrumentation technology at the University of Arkansas for Medical Science. He served on the boards of examiners for biomedical engineering technicians, clinical engineers twice, and healthcare safety professionals. He was authored over 150 publications in national journals on chemistry, clinical and biomedical engineering, and hospital safety, as well as 20 book chapters and several co-authored books. He has delivered more than 2,000 presentations at regional, national, and international meetings on chemistry, clinical and biomedical engineering, and hospital safety. So, welcome, James. Let me share again my screen and say your presentation. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
The slide?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Starting there. You want to give me the next slide, please?
Okay.
Okay. I look at clinical engineering as a Renaissance person. My friend, Caesar Caceres, who was an MD, developed the terminology. He wanted to bring engineers into his practice and actually into surgery. And this was in the early 1970s kind of thing. And I think as Ramiro has gone through and talked about his presentation, I think he really shows that a clinical engineer needs to have knowledge of more than one area of engineering. They need to know something about electrical, something about mechanical. I think even something about industrial as they look at the hospital. They work in patient care. It's not a research area that they're working in primarily. They're working in and around the hospital and with the physicians. They have to have a good knowledge of medical instrumentation, and as Ramiro showed, that is changing all the time. And so this means that they're having to continue to look at that. They also are working with doctors and nurses and other people in the hospital. Well, I found over the years that these people weren't going to learn our engineering language, so we had to learn to work with them and learn their language kind of thing. And, I train technicians as well as engineers. And one of my technicians told me one time that he learned more about what needed to be done by going around the hospital every morning and drinking coffee and eating pieces of cake with the nurses kind of thing. He learned what they needed to do. And I thought that was really very good. As I told my engineers that we were training, they might do the same thing and also be sure and talk to their technicians kind of thing. The engineer needs to have a knowledge of basic patient care techniques. They need to have something knowledge about the hospital administration, because as they talk about buying new equipment and such, they're going to deal with these people. Hopefully they're on a committee with hospital administration, finance people, and physicians. I served in that role part of the time. And they're going to have a shop, hopefully. And they're going to have technicians working for them. and maybe other engineers, depending on the size of the hospital. So they have to talk about supervision and management. Initially, a lot of the clinical engineers were not necessarily engineers. I got into the field. I'm a PhD chemist, actually, kind of thing. But I was working with a physician in nuclear medicine at that time and developed a program for moving research equipment around the country for our major hospital system. And so it turned out I was one of the few people in the whole system that knew anything about instrumentation. So I got the role of developing a program to train engineers. We actually brought a variety of engineers into our system. We trained them for 2 years on the hospital setting and various things before we actually put them out in the hospitals by themselves. And that program is effectively still going along the same. Next slide. As I look at the education, I think it's not much different than in the past, except, as Romero said, it's become more sophisticated. The equipment becomes more sophisticated, but the engineer is still having to learn about the medical equipment. The medical procedures have become more sophisticated. And again, you got to know something about that. And as he's also talked about, it's getting outside of the hospital. Clinical engineering is in home treatment. They got to be able to support telemedicine. They're still in charge of probably the maintenance and repair of the equipment in the hospital, but they've got technicians that have been well trained to do that. Hopefully, they're looking at, as a physician that decide, well, they went to a meeting and they saw this all equipment, they want to buy this. Well, they need to be able to learn what that equipment is doing. Is it really what the physician needs? And as they go through and determine, instead of just buying something and then it shows up on the door, and that happens in some hospitals around the world, kind of thing, they need to get with the people, with the medical staff, with the administrative staff, and see about that purchase. Patient safety is a big issue. Again, with the equipment and even with the facility. We had clinical engineers that had to worry about if we evacuated a floor, what was the best way to do it? Did we work with the doctors and nurses to say, okay, this is the best way to get the patients out, or do we want to maintain part of them in place, kind of thing? But again, these are engineering decisions, not necessarily medical decisions as we go through. They got to be trainers. As new equipment comes in, somebody has to train the doctors and the nurses after the first people come in. And that, to me, is what the clinical engineering staff does, kind of thing. And they have to learn about the administration and the management of the hospital. They have to know about patient care. And, you get into things, as Ramiro talked about, AI and all the other things that are coming down the road as we look at. As I said, I've been around the field, for 50 years plus now. Of course, I've been retired for 17 years, but I'm still doing things like this and talking to people and seeing what's going on around the world and what's happening. And so I think that's important, that it's changing, but yet it's very similar. Next slide. I think clinical engineers need to look at credential education. They need to look at being a professional engineer, which varies in most countries. And I'm not a professional engineer. I did all the qualifications to be a professional engineer in hospital safety. It turned out I had never worked for a professional engineer, therefore I couldn't become a professional engineer, but that's okay, kind of thing. But again, it is a standard for an engineer in most countries, and this is something that they need to be looking at as well. I think certified clinical engineer, and again, that varies by countries. As I said, I've served on the board in the U.S. for twice. I helped develop the certified clinical engineering program in China and developed them. Went over there 2 or 3 times to do some teaching with it, with Yardine David, kind of thing. And again, I think this is what engineers need to be. They need to be going ahead and becoming professionals in their field, kind of thing. The next slide. Again, does a clinical engineer want to stay as a clinical engineer all his life? Maybe he wants to go up through the management, learn something. He needs to learn about the management in order to manage his own program. He needs to know about hospital engineering. In general, in the United States, probably most of the clinical engineers work for hospital engineering. Well, the hospital engineer gets paid more than the clinical engineer, so maybe he wants to become a hospital engineer, kind of thing. And maybe he wants to go up and be a hospital administrator, kind of thing. In fact, I had one biomedical engineering technician that we trained who became a major administrator. In fact, whenever he retired, he had 50 government hospitals under him. Of course, he had a master's of business administration along the way. So I think these are the things that, you need to look at, and the education is varied. It's partly going to depend on what the individual wants to do, and he may change that as he goes through his career and thing. But I think the main thing is clinical engineers have to be learning all the time and have to be learning about the hospital, the patient care, and all of the new equipment. It's a pretty big challenge for any individual to get into that, as I think Romero was showing. I mean, and I know now I do a lot of this in order to keep in touch with kind of what's going on. As I said, I've been retired, but I still like to talk to people around the world and such, and I'm involved in the international groups to a degree, and done some of that. So I think, and again, clinical engineering, as some of my friends say, is not the same in every country. Mm-hmm. About 80% of it is the same, but 20% of it is going to depend on the situation within a country, kind of thing. And again, that needs to be part of their training, kind of thing. So the last slide is basically that clinical engineering is important for the health the delivery field. And so, very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, James. Let me... Okay, can you hear me well? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, James, for your presentation. And I will present now our next panelist. She's Marianne Jambier. Marianne Jambier is a certified clinical engineer that works at the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario in Ottawa, Canada. She is a licensed professional engineer in the province of Ontario and Quebec. She is the Vice President of the Canadian Medical and Biological Engineering Society, the North America Regional Group representative for the Council of Societies, and the co-chair for Women in Biomedical Engineering in the International Federation for Medical and Biological Engineering. She has a PhD in Biomedical Engineering from the University of Montreal. She's an adjunct research professor at Carleton University and at the University of Ottawa. So welcome, Marianne.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you. I appreciate them very much. The talks from James and from Ramiro. You will see our talks are very similar because we understand similar trends of where the education is going, the future of clinical engineering.
Okay, let me share your presentation. Okay, can you see your presentation on the screen?
No, I do not see it.
Okay.
I do not see it.
Okay.
Yes, now I see it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes, so when asked about the questions, the skills needed for the future of clinical engineers, I'm in agreement with my colleagues that biomedical device integration and interoperability is going to be something that's going to be required for clinical engineers to get involved into, because medical devices are growing complexity and they're integrated into the EHR. And as various biomedical equipment into healthcare network systems becomes available, we need to be able to lead these kind of initiatives, not only let IT lead them, but work collaboratively with them. So we should get knowledge of medical standards for DICOM, HL7, system architecture, and network protocols in order to help integrate these medical devices into the EHR. So we become more like system-based engineers in that sense. Another area that I think that skills are the future for clinical engineers is data analytics and health informatics. As we said, as the device are more complex and become integrated into networks, they're increasingly driven by data. So the future clinical engineers must be able to collect, analyze, and interpret the data from medical devices and hospital systems in order to help improve patient outcomes and operational efficiency. I believe, like our colleague Ramiro said about data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, having experience, at least exposure to health informatics platforms in the future is going to be key for leading into that data analysis and analytics in clinical engineering. And these are going to be key research area if we want to get into the leading portion. So these are areas of research that we could get into. Another area that's very interesting is cybersecurity for medical devices. Because the devices are connected to hospital networks, there's a cybersecurity risk that increases. They become vulnerable. So we need to be able to understand these cybersecurity principles. We need to do a vulnerability assessment, do risk management. We need to know or lead or develop the guidelines around cybersecurity for medical devices. Another key thing, and I think that our colleague James talked about that, as technology are becoming more integrated and it's creating more international scene, we are going to need to lead the rise of telehealth, telemedicine, remote monitoring technologies, and wearable technologies are very highly frequent. It's going to be the future of healthcare delivery as the population is aging and a lot of home care is being to take care of. So clinical engineers are going to be involved in developing, implementing, and maintaining telemedicine platforms and wearable technology. So we need to understand these systems, the sensor technologies, the internets of things and healthcare, and remote monitoring protocols. So we have to lead, not be the back end. So these are going to be important things. And I did put here life cycle planning and asset management because Health Canada, in Canada, health is, it's not private here. It is government uh, budget. So here, planning of life cycle management as medical devices or healthcare becomes more dependent on healthcare devices. We're going to have to know how to budget well and plan well all these technologies into life cycle planning, like doing strategic planning, capital planning, total cost of ownership, doing predictive maintenance. All these issues are going to be even more prevalent as resources become limited for budget for healthcare. So the skill of clinical engineer are going to be even more important in order to plan how to acquire medical devices in hospital as technology is becoming dependent on the patient healthcare. And I added here sustainability and green initiatives because this is a priority right now. We know there's a lot of waste in healthcare. So clinical engineers will be involved in leading sustainable, or not at least leading the sustainable development, but acquiring the companies that have medical devices that have green initiatives into the hospital. So they're going to be putting like a green flag to inquire about these, reduce waste in healthcare operations, look at eco-friendly device disposal and waste management, and look at companies. They're going to promote sustainable design innovation in medical devices into the healthcare system because we're the one doing the procurement and implementation of medical devices into the hospital. So engineers will be involved into getting these kind of companies into the hospital, so leading into that area. Another thing that I wanted to mention was that service contract management, it's going to be key as well. As we are getting more dependent on medical devices again in hospitals and budgets are limited, having somebody to do value engineering on the service third-party contracts or in-house, looking at all the ways we can save money and bring value to the hospital in saving the service contract, or developing a strategy for that. That's going to be a key element in saving money for the hospital because budget are going to be limited. Next slide, please. So in doing that, in talking about the future, what's the role of continuing education? So I'm in my mid-career, and I do realize we're in a field that's completely always evolving. So we need to stay current with medical technologies, um, in advances such as new AI-driven imaging for, like Ramiro showed about the MRI that we saw, or we can talk about as well 3D printing medical devices. We have to be leading in these. So we have to get knowledgeable about these. We have to be included into this discussion. So we have to stay current with anything that's coming out, like James Ware said. We have to enhance our skill in emerging fields such as AI, data analytics, cybersecurity, and even sustainability, because this is a big initiative of how can we for climate change, how can we save the planet? So we have to lead into these. So we have to learn more about these. And we have to support professional growth and career advancement. And by that, I mean, continuing education, it opens opportunities for career growth. As James Weir mentioned, there's different pathways to that. So we need to keep educated, keep evolving, and decide which area we want to focus on so that we are able to, if we keep learning about a certain field, we would advance most likely in a career path. And by doing continuing education, we are contributing to patient safety and quality of care because we, as clinical engineer, have the ability to manage and maintain medical device in a way that ensures optimal performance, reduce the risks associated with equipment failure, and enhance patient care. So by doing all this knowledge and learning about mitigating risk, we are contributing to a better quality of care and enhancing patient safety. And by continuing to be at the edge of education. We are supporting innovation and research. And by collaborating and networking with our peers in conferences in Canada, we have the Canadian Medical Biological Engineering Society. We have our annual conference. By collaborating and exchanging ideas, we are coming together and we're growing and advocating for the field and learning more about and getting certifications, as James Weir mentioned too. Next slide, please. So how can academia adapt the curriculum to meet industry demands? I like that Ramiro said that academia is always behind, and James shows the contrast of where there's opportunities. We have to follow these different pathways. I'm going to talk more about the school itself, what kind of courses they should offer, because this is where the future is. They should really incorporate emerging technology trends into the studies, such as machine learning, AI in healthcare, medical data analytics. They should introduce electives in telemedicine systems, wearable health, remote patient monitoring. They should, and they have the ability, the universities, to partner with medical device companies to provide access to the latest robotic surgical systems, advanced imaging technologies, and biomedical sensor platforms to provide hands-on learning to the next future of engineers, clinical engineers, or designers, biomedical engineers that are going to be developing technologies. We should be developing the skills in data analytics and health informatics at the university level. And the approach to do that, because we have the electrical health record, is to offer courses in health data science to look at how big data are analyzed, to do predictive modeling, and to do artificial intelligence driven decision support systems. We should use hands-on projects, real world medical data. It's possible if you have ethics and you work around it. And we should use as well, teach students how to interpret and utilize data for predictive maintenance devices, not just for the EHR, but as well for the CMMS that we have data on equipment, how to predict use a pattern to predict equipment maintenance. So we should work on that part. We should expand focus on cybersecurity in healthcare. So the devices are connected, and we should be able to do a risk management plan for the students to learn how to understand the cybersecurity protocols and do vulnerability assessments and secure software development on networks security. And we should as well integrate telemedicine and remote monitoring training, how to do a design and deployment of telemedicine systems at university level so that students are already geared and equipped in the future to go into the field of in the clinical settings when they're deployed in the hospitals, when we do telemedicine, they are already familiar with this. And we should emphasize sustainability and green health practices. So we should include into universities modules that talk about eco-friendly medical device disposal, e-waste management, and sustainable procurement, energy efficient healthcare technologies, so that students come out already with a gear mind of what is sustainable design that we should promote in healthcare. So they become leaders into and ambassadors for sustainability. We should enhance hands-on and real-world experience. A lot of theory is being taught in schools. So the approach should expand internship and opportunities and co-op programs. We know at Ottawa U and Carleton University, we have an internship program for the clinical engineering master program training. So, and we should have co-op programs as well to introduce the students into that field too. They should do simulation labs where students can work with real-world medical devices, with ventilators, MRI machines, robotic surgical tools. These are all great ideas, and they can even start at the level of bachelor where they can do capstone projects that involve solving practical engineering problems in healthcare settings that already get their mind thinking about problem solving. And I know that, James, we talk about promoting interdisciplinary learning and collaboration, and I emphasize that we should require collaboration between all the different fields, because as a clinical engineer, you interact with all different stakeholders. So we should have interaction between IT, healthcare, business students. We should offer joint programs, dual degrees that combine clinical engineering with healthcare management, informatics, or public health. We should have seminars that promote, uh, uh, oops, sorry. We should have seminars that promote well-rounded perspective on healthcare challenges with physicians, data scientists, regulators, engineers. And finally, we should really push to the students that your degree is just the beginning of your lifelong learning, continuing education, and you should follow the lifelong learning programs that we do have with the certification of clinical engineering, that's mandatory, that in the professional engineering license as well. And those are all great thoughts that we have. And I know it's a repeat a little bit of James and Ramiro, but that's because we all see where the future is going. And I can't wait to see what Francine is going to come up with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marianne, for your presentation. And as you said, let's pass to Francine Umutesi. She is a biomedical engineer with extensive experience in healthcare system strengthening, including facility planning. From 2020 to 2024, Francine served as the Medical Technology Division Manager at Rwanda Biomedical Center during the COVID-19 pandemic, leading projects like the Orange and Masaka hospitals and improving hospitals' HTM through initiatives such as renovating isolation units in healthcare facilities, acquiring over 40 PCA plants, establishing long-term management contracts for hospital equipment, signing a strategy partnership for medical imaging equipment supply and maintenance. Previously, she worked as a healthcare technology aspiration specialist for the Ubusima Bujambe project under RBC, implementing initiatives funded by various organizations, including the World Bank and USAID. Currently, she is a good engineering and manufacturing practice inspection analysis at Rwanda FDA. Okay. Francine, I think you can start presenting your presentation. You are mute.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to connect to share my screen.
Okay.
Mm. Perhaps you can help me and share. I seem to some trouble. Are you seeing it?
No, we are not seeing it.
Let me try again.
When you share, when you do the clicking on the share button on Zoom platform, click on where it says share all the screens. All the screens.
Second.
Okay, we are seeing now your presentation. Yes, now we can see
it. Thank you so much. Apologies for the delay. So thank you for the introduction, and thank you for everyone who intervened so far. I really don't have anything new to share. It will be a bit repetitive, but in some cases, I will try to see how to add a little bit. Coming after Professor Marie-Ange is not an easy thing. So I started by sharing some definitions because I know some of the target audience that we have want to understand what is clinical engineering. I know that in my circles, most people don't really understand what it is. So I went on and discussed how WHO defines clinical engineering, which is basically a specialty of biomedical engineering responsible for, sorry, I just lost my, okay. Responsible for medical technology utilization. In other words, it's a term used to refer to biomedical engineers who solve problems related to clinical aspects in healthcare systems, healthcare delivery systems and patient care. Some of the specializations may include, my colleagues already mentioned most of these, including neuroengineering, tissue engineering, biomaterials, medical imaging, bioinformatics, where we find also telemedicine, and other applications. Clinical engineering is one of them. And some of the skills I think will be needed for biomedical engineers, clinical engineers to tackle the future of healthcare include technical proficiency, data analysis and management, regulatory knowledge. I am finding out that a lot of us, many of us go to school. We learn a lot of about engineering principles, but what about regulatory aspects? Those also are really needed. Problem solving and critical thinking, adaptability and lifelong learning. Many mentioned education continuity, project management, and ethical considerations. I will not go into details, but I wanted to really highlight some of the aspects in that category. By technical proficiency, I understand technical knowledge that we go and earn from universities, from schools, from technical schools. Many mentioned how schools are developing programs to tackle clinical engineering, biomedical engineering at a master's level. In Rwanda, we do have a Center of Excellence in Biomedical Engineering, also providing a master's program in biomedical engineering. But what are the specialties? What are the specificities of what people are learning? It is important to have skills in understand medical device design, for example, how they are managed, maintained, understand regulatory standards, software used for data analysis, simulation, device programming, using programming languages, even if it's at a basic level, understand how it is done. Ability to analyze and interpret data. This is very important. And of course, cybersecurity awareness. Most of us in our settings, most of biomedical technicians in hospitals are not associated with security of data or patient data security. Yet medical devices all come with AI programmed, AI integrated systems, for example. And as long as there is no awareness, there's no practice to protect those data, it's still an issue. Teamwork and knowing how to work collaboratively with within a multidisciplinary team, it's very key as well. And of course, knowing how to clearly convey technical information. Most technicians in hospitals are the ones who train clinical practitioners. So this, I think, is a skill that is very important for biomedical technicians. Regulatory knowledge as well is very key. We do have Rwanda FDA as I was introduced. I work at Rwanda FDA presently. At heart, I'm a clinical engineer, thinking how to improve healthcare delivery services, but regulatory is key if you want to keep patients safe. And this is done through understanding medical device regulations and standards for starting from design, manufacturing, distribution, and utilization. And of course, quality assurance. Our biomedical engineers, technicians in hospitals lack sufficient understanding, or perhaps are not exposed to complying with safety and quality standards. And this is one of the skills that will be needed in the future to better cater for patient care. Problem solving is also a key, one of the major key for an engineer working in a complex environment. And I think it's Professor, I don't I don't recall his name, but the professor that talked about how many years ago people were learning on the job, looking at nurses, doctors, looking at how challenging the job is and finding solutions on the spot. So these people need to be having, to be given opportunity to learn, opportunity to understand how they can be, they can think critically and also find solutions to challenges on the job. So education was mentioned many times. I do agree with my colleagues. We need to stay current. We need to apply green and energy saving solutions to health infrastructure. We need to continue education in different technologies, especially as it advances rapidly. And of course, new roles and responsibilities are being born. We no longer are not just biomedical engineers, biomedical technicians, but we have to be planners. We have to be budget managers in most cases. We have to be thinking of the future and innovating all the time. So it's really a skill that I think needs to be developed in biomedical engineers, clinical engineers across the board. Project management, like I was saying, there are different projects under clinical engineering in hospitals, whether it's to bring in new equipment, start a project of supply and installation of an equipment X, making sure that the infrastructure is ready, and ensuring availability of power supply, for example, different aspects, understanding the budget needed, and also finding ways to raise that budget. All those are skills I think are important, especially including leadership skills, to know how to lead your teams and also motivate them. We can't forget ethical considerations, awareness of challenges in medical technologies and patient care. Once we understand regulatory requirements, ensure that we implement them properly to ultimately ensure patient safety and quality of care. In our case in Rwanda, for example, there has been some major achievements over the last few years. Some of them are about organization, about creating awareness, creating the Rwanda Association of Biomedical Engineers. Presently, we have an association, and we even created a branch for women in clinical engineering. We are part of Rwanda Allied Health Professionals Council, and a license is required to be nominated or appointed by the Ministry of Health to work in a hospital. So all these are major key achievements in the last few years. There is accessibility to different capacity building opportunities, and of course, state-of-the-art technologies in hospitals to be able to understand, practice, and also learn, continue learning and innovating. Unfortunately, as you will see on these two graphs, we still have some challenges in terms of availability of engineers, technicians over the last few years. There has been some efforts in increasing the number of engineers, technicians who finish school, who finish advanced level of biomedical technology, a bachelor level of biomedical engineering, master's level, but we still have a challenge in employability, where we find most of the engineers are employed. I counted today 33 over 35 who are employed, but technicians are still unemployed, yet there is room for employment. We still have 2 technicians in district hospitals, which, if I can say, is a hospital of around 300 beds, bed capacity. And that includes medical devices, different types of medical devices for maternity, neonatology, imaging, different services in a hospital. And it's still, there is still lack of understanding of clinical engineering overall, what it stands for, the role and the importance of clinical engineers in a hospital setting, lack of trainings, especially in precise fields, so that we can have experts skilled and qualified to also train others. Of course, how to approach AI integrated medical devices in new technologies to continue ensuring the patient safety. Equipment are brought in, but how do we begin to tackle the safety and the safety of the patients, but also safety of the device and also overall data management. There's still a challenge in career development path, still a huge challenge to bridge the gap between the salary and expertise of BMEs and BMEDs. So I think these are things that need awareness and advocacy. Some of the things I wanted us to take home is understanding that globally clinical engineering is still challenged, yet it should be considered as an integral part of the healthcare team. We need to highlight clinical engineering importance to decision makers as well as other health professionals. And of course, and continue building capacity should be a universal priority. Here I insist because many mentioned that we have different programs in universities, but how are they being availed to others, availed to everyone to be able to raise or to enhance the skills and competencies across the healthcare sector. We need to think about advocating for the dedicated clinical engineering departments in order to, of course, manage and maintain better medical devices, but ultimately to improve patient outcomes and operational efficiency. In my last slide, I want to emphasize the need for investment in continuous education, need for enhancing regulatory knowledge, regulatory awareness on medical devices, not only in manufacturing, in designing, but also and most importantly in healthcare services delivery management. Of course, interdisciplinary collaboration is also key to save lives. Professor who mentioned the economic impact of clinical engineering in the future, which will be huge. Seeing the path or the pace of technological advancement that exists. It's an industry that is developing worth keeping an eye on, and also continuing to uphold ethical standards in clinical engineering. So I thank you so much, and I welcome any inputs, any suggestion or question. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Francine and Marie-Ange, James Ware, and Ramiro Barreiro for your presentation. It was really interesting to see your presentation and hear your thoughts on this regard. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I think such an interesting topic must have at least some minutes for a Q&A section. So let me read a question Roberto Ayala made on the chat. It is, I think that medical devices regulation, standards, normatives, and public policies, as well as health economics, are important topics in the formation of clinical engineers. Do you agree? And most important, what recommendations will you give about it? So do you have something to say about it?
Yeah, it's a great deal that proposing. I agree 100% with Roberto. In Argentina, we have the possibility that all these topics are included in the curricula. So for us, it was not a problem, but he told me that in Mexico, for example, there is not the same situation. So it's very, very important to have these kind of topics included in the curriculum.
Thank you, Ramiro. Okay. I have another question here. It says, what ethical considerations should be taken into account when incorporating emerging technologies into clinical engineering education?
For ethical considerations that we should take in consideration for integrating in clinical engineering educations, we should always look at patient safety, always protecting the patient. So nothing is going to compromise our profession, innovation, until it entails patient safety. So first, do no harm, like the physicians should be applied as well for clinical engineering, protecting patient safety.
Okay. Thank you very much, Marie-Ange.
May I have a comment to
Please,
this, Eva? Yes. I would like to have one comment and one question. A comment is that according to thesis of your presentations, there is one is the most increased complexity of the medical equipment. So I think that one of the aspects of future education should be skills for communication with medical personnel, yes, with doctors and nurses, because actually the language which we are using for our technician aspects of the equipment, there are simply new words and new ideas. So I think that one of the skills should be learn how to communicate and to explain these advances in technology to our partners which are not familiar with this language and ideas. So it is, I think that it should be also considered as one of the aspects of future education. But another question is, of course, I agree with this that this normalization and standard should be established, but it is not easy because there are very big differences in different countries. So this international standards, and I think that it will be not easy. And my question is, because James mentioned that clinical engineers are professional engineers and certificate engineers. And I would like to ask what skills are dedicated to those professional engineers and which one are dedicated for certificated engineers only. Because I think that idea is that many tasks may be done by professional engineers, but in some tasks, and especially application or participation in medical procedures are only for certificated engineers. I know that it is different. It is solutions in different countries are different, but I think that we may discuss this topic if you are interested in. because it is similar in medical physics, that some procedures in radiotherapy may be provided only by certified physicists, not by, but many, of course, by graduated, university graduated medical physics. So I wonder, in your opinion, but could you give some examples for procedures or for tasks which should be dedicated for certified engineers only?
Perhaps I can comment on that. I will give an example of a situation where a certified engineer saved the day. It was during COVID-19. We had a lot of patients, and clinicians started understanding that they require medical oxygen to breathe, to get better even. But some of the medical devices that were available needed quick maintenance, quick assessment, diagnosis, and then maintenance utilization. Those include oxygen concentrators. And we started also acquiring PSA plants, but how are they utilized? How do you deliver oxygen from the plant to the patient directly, safely? That was the job of biomedical engineers, from the production, distribution, to the dispensing to the patient. And in some cases, in most cases, we found engineers standing with doctors while providing medical oxygen to critical care patients. I don't know if this responds to your question, but I think that is one example where we find engineers being required to save lives directly. And this is where even the ethics considerations comes in. Doctors have that oath that they take, but what about engineers in cases where they have to be actively involved? Those are the kind of skills that we need to promote, we need to enhance in engineers, but they already are doing that. Awareness and maybe creating a way to support them, to support our profession will be key. Thank you.
Yes, may I'll answer? Yes, thank you very much. But one of the criteria is that certified engineers are allowed to participate in medical procedures with patients. For example, in intensive care, in robotics, surgery with robotics, etc. So in such procedures with the direct contact with patients, they should be provided by certified engineers. But I think that you may listen you may give other criteria. So I wonder if you have such propositions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Eva, so much. And I think you were asking about the skill sets that define a certified engineer for a engineer, right?
I can try to answer that question because I am a professional engineer and I'm a licensed in both provinces. It depends on the country you live in. In Canada, engineering body looks at the accreditation of an engineer to how from the school he got its knowledge, and then you do an ethical test to make sure that you're able to put a seal of a signature on any evaluation or testing that you do for the hospitals. You're able to get that permit that gives you a license to put your seal, your name as a licensed engineer. So that's independent of clinical engineering. That's as an engineer as a whole in the profession. Now, for the certification of clinical engineering, it is a different process. This is American College of Clinical Engineering, does the Canadian Board of Examiners. We go through a process of learning. There's a study guide on the American College of Clinical Engineering. That's the one that I know of for the certification of clinical engineering, and it's open to international areas as well. But you have to follow the body of knowledge of what is a clinical engineer skill sets that you should be able to master. And if not, you're not exposed to everything. So there's a study guide, there's courses that you can take to bring you up to that level. And that certification brings you a seal that you are a capable engineer for within the field of clinical engineering, recognized by the body of American College of Clinical Engineering. So it's for I know there's a US board, there's a Canadian Board of Examiners, there's soon going to be a Mexico and a Peru board. So the Latin America is looking and doing that. But you can get from another country. I don't think where our profession is at a level where there's restrictions of the skill set, what you can or cannot do as a clinical engineer, as a license. As in the license of engineering, yes, because each province in Canada is doing that to protect the profession of engineering. But within the field of clinical engineering, I think what we're doing, we're not promoting the certification field, the certification of it well enough to, like Francine said, to be recognized as a healthcare professional within the team of healthcare. If we were all certified, we would have these kind of criteria that I think you're looking for, Ewa, to be able to say the skills that a certified clinical engineer are to be recognized at a global level. And I don't think we're there yet, but we should aim to get there in the near future.
Thank you very much, Marianne. I think that with your last thoughts, we can close the webinar. So once again, thank you very much to our incredible panelists to be here and share with us their knowledge. And thank you so much to you too for took some times for your day to join us on this conversation. And we hope to see you on the next events to celebrate Global Clinical Engineering Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
nice
you
day.
very much.